So I'm 20 years old and I scaled my agency to the point where last month it did $42,000, and consistently month over month we've been doing about $15,000 a month at the very minimum for the last 6 months. And that was at the lowest point. I think the last time we did anything less than that was at least 5 months ago. So that's basically where I'm at right now. And in this video I want to break down casually exactly what I needed to actually get there at such a young age and in such a short period of time. Just for context, I started my entire business idea actually wanting to start this whole thing about 14 months ago. And obviously now I'm at the point for the last 5 months or so that I've been doing a lot of money, right? More than like most adults, right? So I want to basically explain exactly how I was able to do that so that ultimately you can kind of follow the same pathway and get to the same result, hopefully, right? So there's basically two critical things that it comes down to in terms of, and I'm going to speak in terms of like an agency, right? Because that's kind of the business model that I ran. High ticket services online, that's basically what I'm familiar with, right? So it might be different with e-commerce, right? That's not who I'm speaking to at the moment. So in terms of how I was actually able to get there, it came down to two main things. The first thing is essentially discipline, and the second thing is paradigm, okay? So explain both these two things, how to actually develop them so that you can get to the point where you're able to actually make this happen, right? So what do these terms mean? Let's start by defining them, right? So in terms of discipline, pretty straightforward. It's kind of the energy and the willpower you have and the determination to make something work. If you don't have the determination and the absolute grind to make this your only option and to make success the only possible chance that you will allow, then it's not going to work. No matter what kind of business you do, no matter how good your paradigm is, no matter like how you see the world, it doesn't matter if you don't have the ability to say to yourself, I'm going to work for this for the next 5 years until it works, right? If you aren't able to say that to yourself and be 100% real, it's not going to work. And I can tell you this because for the first about 8, maybe 7 months of actually starting this, I made $0. I made $100. I did like a database reactivation for my hairdresser, right? That was the only money I made until about 7 months in, right? And 90% of the people I talk to, obviously I work with I work with social media marketing agencies. A lot of the people in this kind of industry are fairly new, right? They're fairly starting up. 90% of the people who I talk to, they've been in the game for like 3 months or less. And the reason why that is because the industry has such a high churn, because most of the people who are actually coming to starting a marketing agency are just like watching some Iman video and thinking it's going to be quick and easy and they're going to get to 10K per month in like 2 months. And then they have this false expectation and then they end up quitting and then they try like drop shipping or something and then nothing ends up working for them, right? And they wonder the reason why. But the reason why is because to build an actual company, right? This isn't like a side hustle. To build an actual company, it takes time. But if you don't have the patience and if you don't have the discipline and the willpower to stick it through, and if your why isn't big enough for that to be the only option, it's not going to work, right? So that's the biggest issue. And if you have the discipline to actually stick to something, you're going to be able to make it happen, right? And the second thing, right, you need to have this first part in place before you even start. If you don't have the reason why as to why this has to work, again, it's not going to. Sorry, one sec. So that's the number one thing. The number two thing is paradigm, okay? So the reason why I say this is, and I'm going to explain a little bit on how this kind of applied to my story as well, right? But the reason why this is so important and what this actually means, it's basically the way you see the world, right? So business is a very it's kind of like something that if you follow a certain linear order of steps, you are going to succeed, right? It's not really something like, it's not like a, I don't know how you would describe this. I'm going to use like a kind of like a sports/gaming term. It's not really like a mechanical thing. It's more of like it's more of a brain thing. It's more of like chess than soccer, right? So it's not like physical skills that you need to have, right? Obviously there's the discipline aspect to that, but it's not like it's basically what I'm trying to say. Oh, I'm going to fix that. What I'm trying to basically say is that everything in terms of your success is going to come down to the decisions that you decide to make. And then obviously you just take the actions based on the decisions that you make. If you make the right decisions, the actions are easy, right? Whereas in like a sport, for example, you can make the right decisions, but if you don't know how to dribble a ball, it doesn't really matter. It's not really like that in business. The skills are like semi-easy. As long as you know the decisions, right? If you can make the right decisions, you will succeed. So if I were to give you an example, right? If Bill Gates were to sit beside you your entire like career in business, starting a business, if he was like to sit beside you the entire time and tell you exactly what to do, you would succeed just as well as if he did it on his own, right? The reason for that is because if you see the world in the right way and if you know the decisions to make, you're going to be able to scale your business really, really fast, okay? And you're going to, like, if you make all the right decisions, you're going to have the best outcome. So when I say paradigm, the way you see the world, it's basically the way that you make decisions. So, for example, if you can learn to make decisions like Warren Buffett would, if he were just to tell you exactly what to do, you would achieve the same results as Warren Buffett would, right? So, basically, what I have done and how this has helped me a lot, and the reason why it took me like 7-8 months to actually get to the point where I was starting to make money, and then from that point went to like 10K a month in like 40 days. The reason why that actually happened was because all of the different concepts and all the different like decision-making philosophies and what I need to do at every different point in my business, it all kind of clicked together, right? And this is like a long process where before I even started my business, I would read a lot of books, like kind of recently before, right? I would read a ton of business books. I would watch a ton of business YouTube videos, like all of Alex Hormozy's stuff, all of Charlie Morgan's stuff, all of Sam Ovens stuff like that. And I would basically like learn how these people think. And as soon as I started to understand what these people think, or how these people think, and how they react in certain situations, I basically become more like them, right? And by basically learning to think like them and learning to become more like them and learning to become basically like a millionaire, obviously I'm not a millionaire yet, right? But to become more like a millionaire entrepreneur, I like actually became, by thinking more like a millionaire entrepreneur. Sorry, I can't even speak, right? I know it's great to listen to someone who can't even articulate themselves properly. But learning to think more like an entrepreneur makes you more like a good entrepreneur, right? So that's where like a lot of my time has been allocated, and that's why like there's some latency period where you learn the information, but it takes some time for you to come across the right place to basically apply it to, right? So that's basically kind of how that helped me, right? In terms of being able to know, like, I had all this information and then obviously executing on my business at the same time, like basically the amount of problems that I have are just so limited that eventually I develop all of the mindset and all of the decision-making frameworks to be able to solve every single problem, right? Because every single problem can be solved with a decision. And if you understand how to make those decisions, then they're all basically solved. So like solving lead gen, solving appointment setting, solving sales, solving service delivery, right? It's all solved with information. Sales maybe is a little bit different. That requires some more tactical skill, I suppose. But it's 90% of it is just information, right? If you have the right information, then you're able to make the best decisions. So that's basically how I was able to get to the point where I'm doing about 20K a month on average, like in the last couple of months here, right? By the time I was 20 years old. If you want to get more appointments, if you own a marketing agency, you can grab the first link in the description. If not, I will see you in the next video.